When you are facing a domestic violence criminal case, the difference between the right defense attorney and the wrong attorney can mean the difference between a conviction, maybe even jail, and walking completely free, putting all of this behind you. But especially if this is the first time that you've ever been in trouble, ever been arrested, it's difficult to figure out who to trust and who to hire. There are lots of options out there, and like any professional, some are significantly better than others. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 questions to ask before deciding which lawyer to hire to defend you in a domestic violence criminal case. My name is Veronica. I'm a domestic violence criminal defense attorney, and I help people throughout the entire state of California put their cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. Okay, so let's jump right in. 5 questions to ask before deciding who to hire. Number 1, what is the approximate percentage of domestic violence cases that they handle? A lot of criminal defense attorneys take anything that walks in the door. Murder cases, DUI cases, drug cases. They spend most of their time on the most serious cases, the murder, the attempted murder, the gang cases, often sitting in jail for hours, and it does take hours talking to clients, waiting to talk to clients, traveling to the jail, traveling from the jail. Domestic violence cases and DUIs are often what they call their bread and butter. They're happy to have that money coming in, but they don't spend most of their time on those cases. The more serious cases with clients in jail eat up the majority of their time. And attorneys who are focused on life in prison cases often don't give as much attention to what comparatively are little less serious cases like domestic violence. I mean, and think about it. When some of their cases are facing spending the rest of their lives in prison, you ending up with a conviction may not seem like such a big deal. Domestic violence cases also need to be handled differently than other types of cases, and I'll get into that with some of the other questions. But most criminal defense lawyers who take whatever walks in the door do not tailor how they handle domestic violence defenses to account for those differences, and that can seriously hurt your case. Now let's get into an example of how this plays out. Dan was arrested for domestic violence, and his girlfriend Fran hired an attorney who mostly handled homicides. She thought, hey, if this lawyer can handle murder cases, surely they can handle Dan's domestic violence case easily. But every time Dan tried to get in touch, he waited days for a response, sometimes not getting one at all. When they went to court, the judge became frustrated because the case was not moving forward because the lawyer was tied up for months handling a murder trial, without clear answers, without help, and without progress in his case. Question number 2, ask about conviction rates for domestic violence cases. Now look, many attorneys, you could see this on their websites, emphasize the maximum penalty. If you are charged with Penal Code Section 273.5a, that's corporal injury to a spouse, aka felony domestic violence in California, attorneys will tell you you are facing up to 4 years in prison, and they emphasize that. Now, technically, that's true. But for a first offense, that is extremely unlikely. For you to get 4 years on a first offense, the case would have to go to trial. You'd have to lose. The judge would have to dislike you. And aggravating factors would have to be found against you to give you that max. Yet attorneys will stress that penalty and then make it sound like a huge win when they get you something like misdemeanor probation, even felony probation. They will say, when pushing you to accept a conviction and probation, don't worry, you can get it expunged later. But the truth is, you cannot erase a misdemeanor or felony conviction in California. A petition for dismissal, because there is no true expungement, will only change your record to say that the case was later dismissed. It does not erase the case from your record. On a background check, the charge will still appear. Here's an example of how this plays out. Ben's attorney told him probation was a victory. After all, he'd been facing 4 years in state prison. Later, though, Ben discovered that the conviction could not be removed. He also learned from others that sometimes, with the right attorney, cases can be dismissed in exchange for classes. That option had never even been mentioned to him. He was stuck with a conviction that might have been avoidable. Question number 3. If you've been arrested and you have not yet had your first court date, ask, before you hire anyone, what the attorney can do for your case before that first court date. For many types of cases, murder, theft, DUI, there really is nothing to do before court. You just wait for that first court date. But for domestic violence cases, and this is one of the reasons why they are different, there is a possibility of getting them dropped before court if the DA is contacted and certain steps are taken. You need to be proactive, but many attorneys who handle all these different types of cases where you do just wait, in domestic violence cases, they also just simply wait. What you want to hear is that that attorney would contact the DA before the first court date. And don't suggest the answer when you ask. If you say, will you contact the DA before court? They'll just say yes. Ask it the way that I phrased it and see what they say. Let's get into an example. Tim was arrested and his court date was weeks away. His wife, Kim, asked Tim's attorney what could be done before court, but the lawyer shrugged and said nothing until then. They trusted that lawyer, and by the time they walked into court, the DA had already filed charges, and Tim was now suddenly facing months of hearings. If their attorney had acted early, the case might never have been filed. Question number 4. Ask if there's anything that you can do before the first court date. Now, what you're looking for here is whether you're going to get real guidance. You want clear, concrete steps that you can take before court that could actually help your case. These recommendations would be things like classes, therapy, couples counseling that are tailored to the specifics of your case. Now, these things that you would do with the lawyer's recommendation are things that the lawyer can use to try to get your case dropped before court, and if charges are filed, to advocate for a dismissal, because most people are not proactive. You want to differentiate yourself and show that you are taking this seriously and that you are never going to end up in this situation again. Let's see how this plays out. Greg's lawyer told him not to do anything, just to wait. No recommendations for anything that he should do. Months later, Greg learned that if he had completed classes and collected character letters before court, there was a chance that his case could have been dismissed early. Instead, it dragged on, costing him time and stress and potentially costing him a dismissal of the case. The right attorney would have told him exactly what to do and had him start it early. Question number 5. Ask how quickly you can expect responses as you have questions or concerns during the case. Is it within a day? Within a few days? Does it depend on the schedule? This is critical for criminal defense. Many attorneys, especially solo practitioners or some of these disorganized big firms, they take days to respond, or they don't respond to you at all. When you're facing criminal charges, that leaves you sitting there anxious, feeling like you have nobody to talk to, like nobody cares about your case, like nobody's on your side. And sometimes your questions are time sensitive. Even when they're not, though, for peace of mind, you need fast answers. Now, court for criminal cases throughout the state of California is usually in the morning. So sure, you may not hear back until the afternoon if it is just one person working there. That's normal. But you should be able to text, email, or call and know that you're going to get an answer, and a timely one. Ask about this and pay attention not to just what they say, but how they say it and any details that they give. Now let's get into an example of how this goes in the real world. Ray would call his lawyer and hear nothing for days. His anxiety spiked, he felt abandoned, and he was blindsided when deadlines came up. From his perspective, his criminal defense attorney was the only thing standing between him and a criminal conviction, and yeah, possibly jail or prison. His fiancée, May, would try calling too, only to get, at most, a secretary answering and making them feel like they were unreasonable for expecting timely responses. It is not unreasonable to expect that, but the norm, as far as I have seen in the state of California for criminal defense, is that often you will not get a timely response. So pay attention to the details that they offer about how you will get that timely response. So just to recap, these are the 5 questions that you should ask before you hire a lawyer, a law firm, for a domestic violence case. Number 1, what percentage of their cases are domestic violence cases? Number 2, what is their conviction rate in domestic violence cases? And again, if they have no idea, they probably don't care, or it's probably really high. Number 3, what can the attorney do for you for your case before your first court date? Number 4, is there anything that you can do before your first court date? And number 5, how quickly can you expect responses to your questions and concerns? Asking these questions will help you avoid ending up with the wrong attorney and make sure that you and your case get the attention that you deserve. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you do need help with a domestic violence criminal case, feel free to book a free consultation with my office. You can find a Calendly link to book directly down below. You can also find our number there. And if you did find it helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell. And if you have a question or a comment, leave it in the comments.